Let's do it.
Awesome. Yeah, Jim, y'all. Another episode of Wake and Jake for you. Silva is once again going to be filling in for Jinzo as he's on his trip over in Greece right now, having the time of his life. Silva, what's up, man? Thank you for joining.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. GM folks. Happy to be here, man.
Heck yeah, happy to have you, dude. Yeah, we get right into it. Kind of not much going on. As much as there was the last couple weeks. From a price standpoint, Bitcoin is basically flat on the week. ETH the same, both kind of down 0.3%. I'm seeing gold down 5%. Excuse me. A lot of stuff, a lot of alts down in the week. From like 15 to 20% or so on average. It's seeming. Fell even more than that earlier. It was, yeah, a bit of kind of a shittier week after we had quite a big run up. We're seeing the pullback now. Now we're getting to that crossroads point. It seems. Where is that it, or is that just the pullback? We keep going. I think the market in general is waiting on FOMC meeting on Wednesday for what JPOW has to say about the economy and about rates and what's going to happen. There's no expectation that the rates will be cut this month. Polymarket has it at like a 3% chance that it would happen, but there is. It looks like about like a over 50% chance that they would start cutting in the next meeting. So that's kind of what everyone's waiting for. It's about a 58% chance, it looks like, on Poly Market right now, for a Fed rate cut in September, which would be the next meeting after this one. So that's still like pretty close to 50-50 though. So obviously there's like not a huge conviction in that. And people are on the edge right now, and the market doesn't like that big of uncertainty. So, they're looking for anything from JPOW to indicate that they will, in fact, start cutting rates based on like what he says in his language, in his press conference, how he answers the questions, all that stuff is what people are really dive deep into and analyze. So. I think we'll probably be a bit choppy here, at least for the next couple of days until that Wednesday, and then we can kind of go from there. I don't know if there's a lot to be gleaned right now from macro analysis, with us kind of like at a waiting point right now is what it feels like to me. Still leaning bullish though, I would say. As far as Bitcoin goes, on like a higher time frame, Don had a really good show on, I think he had it on Friday. Donald, if you guys aren't familiar, he does a kind of like a weekly, sometimes a couple times a week. It's not always, he doesn't always do it like on time. But he does a show called Technical Roundup on YouTube. Here, I'm just pulling it up real quick so I can share the link. In voice hangout chat here. But those are more in-depth dives if you kind of want to get a more in-depth take on. He usually goes over just like market in general and Bitcoin, obviously ETH, Sol, and then some other bigger alts as well, like XRP, and I think he talked about Dogecoin and stuff like that. He doesn't really get into like shitcoins or anything like that. It's mainly just bigger stuff. But in general, he looks at like a higher time frame, monthly, weekly charts. And he's saying, anything as long as we're above 110K on Bitcoin, then it doesn't really make sense to be that bearish on things. So he still feels pretty good about where we are, as long as we don't lose like that 110K level. It's kind of the big thing. Anything above is fine for now. And right now he's basically saying like everyone's kind of freaking out. that we pulled back a good amount. Obviously, a lot of that's on like altcoins. It's pulled back quite a bit more than what like Bitcoin and ETH has. But just in general, he says like this is all pretty natural at the moment. Nothing really to worry about yet. So that's kind of how I'm feeling. I'm not too worried about things right now, and just waiting to see what happens for the JPOW stuff on Wednesday. And then while we're talking about it, as far as ETH goes, obviously looking really good in general compared to pretty much like everything else. It's been one of the strongest coins. Got all the way up to almost 4K over the weekend. Yeah, it was just yesterday. It got up to like 3,950 or something like that. Back down this morning, unfortunately, a bit, but still holding really strong here at like 3,800. This is kind of the resistance, pretty big resistance range here. That 4K level. Yeah, Web3Quant says he wouldn't be surprised if we kept ranging here for a little bit. Donald, same thing. You know, kind of between like the three and a half. The 3,500 and 4K range here, we might be in for a little bit, and you know, once we kind of break through decisively that 4K level, then we could zoom up another pretty big leg, kind of what we did from like 2,300 to here, whatever the beginning of that this most recent leg was. So yeah, that's kind of what we're seeing from macro, Bitcoin, and ETH. Yeah, any thoughts?
Yeah, you know, it definitely felt like last week was a bit of a roller coaster. You know, we started feeling bullish right on the show, and then, you know, it might have been Tuesday or Wednesday, we kind of dipped down into the, what was it, like 116, maybe even like 115K range for Bitcoin, something like that. And, you know, I saw it all over the timeline, people doom and gloom, oh, that was the top, blah, 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 you know, all the stuff we always get. And then by, you know, Friday, Saturday, yesterday, even, we were back pushing 119, 120K again. So definitely all over the place. And I'm largely in agreement that I do think we're just kind of waiting on Wednesday. You know, that macro outlook is going to kind of determine how a lot of people feel, whether that is, you know, how it should work or not, right? But I'm glad you brought up Don's Friday show, because I actually didn't get a chance to watch that, but I did catch. He did, I think, I don't know if it was scheduled or not, but he did a stream on, I want to say it was Wednesday, but it might have been Tuesday. And he was stressing a lot of those same points that you brought up, but just that he zoomed out a little bit on the charts. I think it was on the daily chart, and showed just like how absurd like the run up has been for Bitcoin, and looking at that teeny tiny dip we saw, and he was like just kind of making fun of it, of like, really, this is why people are bearish, like this is nothing, like that, you know, this is a blip on the chart for the most part, like this can be erased in like a 1 or a 2 hour candle. And basically that's what we did end up seeing happen kind of as the week closed out Friday into, you know, yesterday, Sunday. So I'm, you know, like I know we're down, you know, a little bit, like you said, maybe 0.2, 0.3% on some of the majors, and definitely down a little more on some of, you know, the big alts that had run up. But I'm not any less bullish than I was, you know, when we spoke last week on Monday, even though things felt a lot more bullish then, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it was the Wednesday stream. Now that I'm looking at it, I did the math wrong on the days ago or whatever that it says. Yeah, just in general, I don't really have as much as maybe some previous weeks on majors here. There's just kind of holding pattern right now, so nothing really decisive takes wise. I guess one more regarding Sol. Here's a tweet recently from Web3Quant. He says ETHUSD company hold. This was like in the middle of the night last night, 1:44 a.m. And then he says Sol ETH likely bottomed too. So he's pretty bullish on Sol. compared to ETH right now. Basically, I guess as a bit of a catch up since Sol has been lagging quite a bit compared to ETH. So he's of the assumption that Sol, we start to get some Sol running here, which I think would be good for a lot of us, a lot of our bags, because I know a lot of us have a lot of like the major meme coins and stuff too. You know, like Fart Coin, Bonk, on Sol. You know, Pudgy or sorry, Pengu. I mean, Useless, all those. All those big Sol runners, you know, so if Sol starts ripping, that helps the entire ecosystem a good amount. So that would be nice if we did get a little Sol run here over the coming weeks. But again, you know, kind of just waiting and seeing for FOMC on Wednesday, and then we'll kind of go from there a bit.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that take holds up, right? You know, like especially the Soul ETH part of it. Um, just because it feels like you know everyone, and this, you know, this is how crypto Twitter works for the most part, right? There's one kind of popular take and everyone jumps on the bandwagon, but it seemed like the popular take was that, you know, ETH is going to all-time highs here soon. I mean, it certainly feels like it after the run-up we've seen the last few weeks. And you know, I know you brought it up in the past, a lot of us here were kind of raised in the trenches of Ethereum, you know, from last cycle when MVHQ kind of kicked off in 2020, 2021, you know, all the NFT kind of mania over there. So, you know, bag bias, I'm definitely hoping ETH takes off and hits all-time highs, but I am just, you know, just kind of watching Sol, you know, still got a decent bag of that, but it seems like, you know, most people were calling for that ETH all-time high. So Web3 Quant is one of the few that, you know, kind of just, and I know it was only last night or whatever, but one of the few that I feel like kind of went out on a limb and, you know, just took a little bit of a zig when everyone else was zagging and saying like, yeah, ETH still looks good, but Sol might actually, you know, kind of have a bigger move, maybe percentage wise in it. So interested to see how that plays out. Just, you know, kind of back testing it all and seeing, you know, kind of how a lot of these major kind of, you know, the sharps, how their theses kind of play out over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, man. Chelsea, he's definitely not bearish ETH because he says it in the same tweet. You know that he's ETH USD is can't hold, but basically just expecting some fireworks from Sol, which you know I'd be all about. Yeah, yeah. We can move on to alts if you guys don't have anything else on macro stuff and bigger coins. Yeah, I don't. I mean, we saw quite a bit of dip here on alt stuff over the past week. I'm looking at some of the bigger ones. You know, XRP down like 13%, Dogecoin down 18%, Bitcoin down 16%, Hyperliquid down 3%. Actually, up. It's actually one of the big gainers on the day, 4.5%. While everything else is either flat or down. So nice little bounce on hype there. Yeah, just in general, I would say. Just want to say another thing about BONK. I really like BONK. There was a big news um, over or this morning that like in the past like week or so, someone liquidated like $50 million worth of BONK, which is a lot at that market price, market cap. And that's been why like BONK's really been underperforming quite a bit. So I thought that was pretty interesting. It had a nice little pump and then kind of fully reversed it already this morning. But there's still, you know, still some sharp people, you know, really pining for BONK. Here's Web3 Quant response to someone asking if it's BONK time. That was again last night. It's been for a while. And BONK guy is obviously very bullish on BONK. So I don't know. He's obviously incredibly biased. So I don't always love sharing his takes about BONK specifically, but he retweeted this saying, you know, could challenge all-time high in this next leg here. It could be an explosive week. Again, kind of just waiting for FOMC before any of these things really start to burst up. But I think there's a lot going for BONK still too. I also saw it's just continuing to dominate market share for the trenches right now. BONK is. I mean, Pump's getting absolutely destroyed. It's like down only right now in like pretty much every metric. New coins launched, graduated, revenue, and all that, while BONK is taking over. And it's. I mean, the longer the BONK takes over, like the more solidified its position is, and it's not like a flash in the pan. Vampire attack. It's like it's a real takeover of market share for BONK, and it's continuing to look like it's going to stay, at least for quite some time. So I think metrics behind BONK, narrative behind BONK, everything's, and like the KOLs behind BONK. Like I think everything is very positive. And it's really one of my favorite altcoins, if not my favorite right now among like the bigger ones. And it seems like to me only a matter of time, as long as majors kind of shape up a bit and start trending back up. I could see some pretty explosive moves happening for BONK in the short to mid term here, hopefully.
Billions must bonk, Jake. I mean, it's written in the stars.
It is. It really is.
No, but I mean, I'm right there with you, man. Like BONK is just like, it's a fun coin. It's a funny coin, right? Like it's a meme in and of itself that's, separate from crypto Twitter, right? Like the go to horny jail BONK. I mean, that's how it kind of started anyways. But I think it's like, we can't discount how much positive like momentum and mind share it gets. Like the worse Pump looks, right? Like the worse it looks, the better BONK looks in comparison, as well as just being an organic meme outside of that. The fact that, at least as far as we know, the team hasn't been like nearly as toxic to the price of Sol as the Pump Fund team has. I mean, I'm sure I could find it if I just search for it real quick, but they've pushed out billions, I believe, billions of dollars in Solana. They just constantly been cashing out over the past, whatever it is, 1.5, 2 years since the platform went live. And, like that, sure, they're a business, they're allowed to do whatever they want. So I'm not going to criticize that, but you can't say that doesn't have an effect on people's emotions and how they feel. Their Pump Fund is making money, all of their coins trending downward, they're constantly cashing out, like hurting the price of Solana. So I just think all of those things coming together, like it just has such a negative confluence for that team. And I feel like you're seeing it reflected in the token price, and you're seeing the opposite in BONK's token price and their mind share and like the use of their launch pad. So yeah, short Pump, long BONK.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's gonna be a pretty good trade. Yeah, as far as other stuff right now, we talked about. I want to revisit XRP and Dogecoin. We talked about them in previous episodes. Kind of with where their outperformance happens is in times where Bitcoin starts to make new highs. A lot of normies come on board. We did start to see that the beginning of a trend of that, and we saw XRP and Dogecoin have big legs up. I think they could have another one, but I'm personally probably going to be waiting to enter in those kind of positions until we start to see Bitcoin really start to make those new highs, as well as some more metrics that indicate that people are actually being onboarded to crypto. One of my favorites is the Coinbase app ranking, which there's a really good Twitter. I've shared this before in previous shows, but I'll share it again here. Here's a Twitter account that you can follow, and it just tweets out. I think it's every 12 hours. It tweets out what the app rank is for Coinbase app. I think this is in the US. I'm pretty sure is what it does. Maybe I don't think that. Maybe there's a universal ranking too. But yeah, right now it's like 226. And it shows like what the previous one was. It was 245 like 12 hours ago, so it went up a good amount of spots or whatever. But you can kind of see the trend here too. There's probably a site, I'm sure, somewhere where it like gives you a chart of this as well. But if you look back on like when we were really ripping, what a week ago, week and a half ago or so. The Coinbase app got up to like 60s or so in the App Store, so it rose quite a bit, like 60 all time from where it was. It's actually dropped quite a bit since then too. So it's kind of like a good indicator, I'd say, of like normie interest of getting back into crypto. Also, like just Coinbase going down, because it always seems like Coinbase services go down when there's a big rush. Yeah, I mean, just in general, like those are the coins that they know, and that they have like won, like that they have made like a lot of money on in the past. So it kind of makes sense for them to go back to Dogecoin, go back to XRP, to try and make a bunch of money on them again, because that's what they're familiar of when they think of crypto, right? So that's kind of like my thought process around those kind of coins. I'd personally I'd wait for some nice indicators that the trend is accelerating, as far as new people coming back into crypto, before I would get into those two coins specifically.
Yeah, nothing really to add there, man. I've got longs for both of those that have been open for God knows how long. So I'm paying a ton in funding on them, but I do believe they'll, excuse me, that Doge will get back to its previous all-time high, sometime in the not too distant future here. XRP, I believe, did make new highs, even just briefly, but yeah, we need a little more regulatory, kind of uh, clear data on where we're going, right? Are we getting rate cuts or not? And, so I think once we get that, hopefully Wednesday will kind of be the starter pistol being fired off for, all right, resume bullishness.
um, yeah, I think it can happen quickly too. As we've seen in previous weeks here. Any other big altcoins that you guys wanted to talk about?
One that I'll add in here, Jake, that truthfully, like I don't love or even really like the coin, just because I've always felt it was unsustainable based on like kind of how like the APY they're offering and their staking and yield and whatever. But it's probably been my best performing long for I don't even know how long at this point. But Athena, so ENA token, um, and when everything goes up, it's been pumping 3 to 5 times more. Whenever everything was down, kind of from where I woke up this morning and checked the charts. I was up 40-50% on some of my longs, and now they're barely break even, and Athena's still almost up 20% from, I longed most of these all around at the same time, same day, basically. So I don't know why, and I don't know how, and I'm not really sure how sustainable it really is. But Athena has been performing really, really well for me, at least over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of sharps in Athena recently. Are you still in? Did you say?
Yeah, I'm still in. I haven't really closed out any of my things just because they were all done a few weeks ago, so I'm still pretty much in profit on all of them, just a lot less than I was 2 hours ago. Um,
Mhm.
So yeah, definitely Athena has been holding up really, really well. Similar, like you said, seeing a lot of sharps on the timeline call it out, both for like long-term plays and just scalp plays. And even I know 18 pages front and back, he had some good kind of charting that he did on just some resistances and some supports and stuff in the crypto trading channel. So yeah, shout out 18 pages. Really, really did some good work there.
Yeah, I love that. 18 pages always has some good charts. Um, cool. Yeah. Any other bigger altcoins that people want to touch on before we move on here? Um, yeah, we can get to shitcoins, lower cap stuff. Honestly, don't have a ton there. It's been pretty muted, I would say, as far as the trenches go. with altcoins in general, pretty down in the past week. That's there hasn't been a lot of enthusiasm to rip into low cap stuff either. New launches. Yeah, I mean, I traded pretty shit the past week, unfortunately. I think probably a good amount of other people did too after having a good, a couple weeks before that. There really hasn't been anything. I don't know anything really stand out that I've seen. Maybe obviously the typical couple runners. Maybe going to 10 mil or so, maybe a little bit more. But besides that, it's been pretty lackluster in terms of narratives and stuff too. I honestly don't have a lot of update on the trenches stuff. I think just in general, waiting for the bigger coins to start their uptrend again, waiting for Sol to start its uptrend again. That gives confidence for people to kind of go further down the risk curve. But I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts on meme coins and trenches stuff.
No, I'm pretty much in agreement with you there too. Like it hasn't seemed great. Had a couple of plays that I tried out, basically just lost money on all of them, which is it's how it goes sometimes. Which it it's not super surprising, I guess, just because you can't always ascribe you know think like common sense to shit coins in the trenches, right? But like we saw, and I know you were pretty bullish on it. I that like all the Sydney Sweeney stuff last week, right? Like she had a couple like super viral marketing campaigns. Like I know, especially like she had like some American Eagle thing she did, which caused even their own stock to go up like 20 or 30% like after hours the day it was posted, which was kind of crazy. And normally that would be the kind of narrative and the kind of you know, real world attention kind of thing that would cause a natural runner in the trenches. And I mean, I don't even know if it got past 2 or 3 million before it kind of tanked back down the next day. But I was honestly pretty shocked at that. But I think that just kind of typifies everything you were saying about really the last week or so trading in the trenches. It's like, I mean, we've had some decent enough real world narratives, and we still just can't really get a 10 million runner to stick.
I know. Yeah, that one didn't even get to a million, fortunately.
Oh God.
um, yeah. I don't really have much to add right now. It's pretty bland, I would say. There hasn't really been much people that have gotten excited about besides like the Twitter companion Ani stuff that ran to almost 100 mil. But besides that, it's been pretty lackluster. A lot of focus has been on bigger coins recently with like pump and stuff. I think definitely like the pump launch has hurt the trenches too, obviously, because so many people who like believed in pump fun, who like made a good amount of money, through like betting on coins launched on pump fun, like went and contributed to this pump public launch and probably have held a good amount too. Thinking that they're going to make gen wealth again or like 2-3x again on this platform that they believe in. And there was certainly, I mean, it was a good move if you cashed out like within the first couple of days, for sure. It was pretty free percentage gain. But I think there's also definitely plenty of bag holders out there too, um, who are now negative on their initials, and they have liquidity sucked into it or locked up into it now, and maybe people went overboard from what they wanted to, and it's probably affecting a lot of liquidity in the trenches right now that Pump didn't get that big run as I think a lot expected it to.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like we could sit up here for an hour and I could talk about Pump, the token, the platform, everything. Like Alon last week, he did kind of a few rounds on some like Twitter Spaces and shows and stuff. He had an interview with Thread Guy that was pretty noteworthy, where he hard confirmed there will be an airdrop, but he said it is at no point coming in the immediate future. I'm pretty sure we saw a big red candle immediately on that as people were just upset and pissed off, right? Um, I, he also had a couple other weird moves, like tried to push a fart coin that had been just bonded on pump, which might have gotten to like 1 or 2 million market cap and then died as quickly as it kind of bonded. So just just a lot of stuff that like I don't love, quite frankly. I mean, I did participate in the pump ICO. I sold most of it on the first or second day, so like I got out with a small profit, which is nice. But God, I feel bad for people who really did believe in the product and the platform, and I mean, because it has had a lot of success, but ultimately it's like those believers who didn't rotate quick enough, like they're the ones who are getting like shafted the most. And I don't know, it just seemed like Alon really isn't doing himself or his holders any favors kind of in some of the weird kind of tactics he's trying to push right now.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I mean, they obviously have a ton of money that they could use. I don't know if they will. I mean, they have a history of just withdrawing it to their own bank account. So I don't really know. I don't not like super optimistic that they're gonna like do anything crazy. It certainly doesn't seem like they have much motivation to, from what I've seen.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like the fact that they launched their whole product is a token launchpad, and then they launched their own coin, like not on their own product. And then like their whole next move is like trying to compete with Twitch, and then his first stream that he does is on Twitch and not his own
Yep.
platform again. It's just like I don't really get that. It doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, it
It just
definitely feels
like I said,
like
it doesn't make sense. It just means it's just if you think of it as like they're not actually going to try and do much.
yeah, it only like I mean those are honestly two incredible points I saw a couple other sharps make, and it's just like it's a lot. It's really easy to say those things to sell a vision, and it's a lot harder to actually try and execute them. And granted, it's only been out for a week or two, but even these first few moves he's made doesn't seem like he actually even believes any of the stuff that he's saying that they want to try and do, right? Like, so at that point, it's kind of like, yeah, that if I was still holding at that point, that would have been two huge red flags of like, yeah, they clearly don't like give a shit about their own product. They, that every that all their actions for the last year and a half have shown like what they're about. It's just cashing out and extraction. So yeah, I don't want to be like super ultra bearish, but I don't really think Alon and crew are giving me any reasons to be bullish, unfortunately.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah, not much else on shitcoin trench stuff. We can move on to NFTs if there's nothing else.
Yeah, one one thing I kind of forgot to mention a segment or two ago, looking kind of at my own kind of watch lists here on Coin Market Cap. You're right, like just about everything is down on the weekly from when we spoke, last Monday. But I mean, literally everything is red except for one coin. Everything's down 12, 15, 20%. Except for Pudgy Penguins Pengu token, up 14% on the week, over 4 cents. I mean, it made new all-time highs last week. Like, I, I just think like I'm a big fan. I think Luca has done nothing but execute at the highest level, and I mean it just goes to show the entire market can dump, and Pangu is just kind of sitting as strong as ever. So just wanted to kind of note that for anyone who might not have been paying attention to that one in altcoins.
Yes, sir. Great shout. Yeah, it's like the only one on my lot watch list. It's like that and useless. That's both up on the week. It continues to just be a freight train in itself.
I think that those are the only two coins that are green on our watch list. Probably says a little bit more about us than we'd like to admit, Jake.
It could be. It really could be. Um, yeah, let's get into NFT stuff. There's a little more fun happening over there. It's compared to altcoins, they're doing quite well in the week. Some pockets of some real nice movement actually on a few notable collections. The bigger ones, I would say, haven't had any huge moves over the past week, but they've been pretty steady, if not up a little bit. CryptoPunk's up about almost 10% again this week. Pudgy's pretty flat. Um, Bored Apes pretty flat. It looks like. But there's some other ones that have moved a good amount. Moonbirds continue to be like a really big pumper. We talked about them last week. I think they were like two, maybe around two ETH, 1.5. I'm not really sure. But, yeah, let's see here. Yeah, the past month they're up 300%. The past week they're up 50%. So they continue to rise very rapidly. Who would have thought the Moonbirds resurrection after being down in the dumps? But I guess they have the name recognition and the brand power that I honestly, again, like I have not really looked into what Spencer's doing with them, but it seems like people are liking it. Um,
I honestly never thought we would see the day when I would say this, Jake, but it is a good day to be a Moonbird holder. I mean, against all odds.
what the heck? Oh, I saw Elon just bought some random coin. Sun. Weird. Um, yeah, there's also some other ones kind of blast from the past that moved quite a bit too. Some of the OGs. I wish I still had mine. I sold them on the bear, but Mooncats actually, which is
Oh,
a real old one. They're up 134% this week to 0.36 ETH floor. Hash mass, another one, similar era um, of early NFT runners, up 145% this week at 0.19. I think D Farmer swept a good amount, and I saw like Keyboard Monkey talking about him too. Um, so some big names from past cycle, still showing some love to some of these bigger collections, and then some random other ones like MFers are up 20%. Cool Cats are up 23%. Of the MVHQ favorite. Um, Lonex are actually up 33% for some reason. But yeah, I mean, we're Milady's up 14%. We're seeing quite a lot of moves across the board for NFT stuff, showing a bit that the trend is staying. Uh, I don't know. We'll see.
yeah, I am. I don't know if you call it lucky or unlucky, depending on the price action of 4 or 5 years ago. But I do still have one Mooncat in my possession, and I might have to PFP it for a little while based on the jump it's made.
Um, any takes here for the people on NFT stuff? Anyone been cooking? Anyone been flipping NFTs or at least buying and holding some stuff? I'd be curious if anyone has any strong takes on what we're looking at with the NFT market. All right, quiet crowd this morning. It seems it's all right.
A little bit.
Get some coffee in you.
One other one I'd want to point out, Jake, is Project Aeon, which is like the NFT companion project for the SPX 6900 coin. Murad's baby, basically. That's I believe they're at all time highs right now. Um, they're at 2.35 ETH per NFT. They're up 30% almost just from yesterday. And yeah, I think that and the coin actually, the meme coin, altcoin, whichever it classifies as, I think they're both basically at all time highs right now. Which I, the long haired motherfucker did it. Murad actually did it. He willed the memes into Valhalla. So kudos to him, I guess.
Yeah, he's a testament to working for your bags right there, or grinding. I mean, it works. I guess if you're a Murad believer and holder, it's worked out for you.
Yeah. So yeah, just I mean, kudos to anyone that did. I know I bought one probably over a year ago. Wish I would have held till now, but we make mistakes sometimes. Um, and then just another one that had some big moves are the Rect Guy NFTs. By OSF, they're up 60% on the week, down a little bit from yesterday, 15-16%. They're just over an ETH right now. But Rect Guy, the Rect, their coin, Rect coin for their brand, Rect Brands, it's doing insanely well. I think it almost got to a $500 million market cap yesterday. Before kind of bouncing off of that, so it's somewhere in the 450s ish this morning, last I checked. But Rex is continues to do great things. They are a real business, and seems like they're kind of positioning themselves as like one of the premier quote unquote culture coins, kind of in that same basket as like Pengu, right? Trying to break into mainstream, mindset with a real business and real products they're offering, but also just kind of typifying that they stand for something, right? Being part of the Rect ecosystem is like, it's like a feeling and a cultural thing. So they're clearly capitalizing on that and doing a really good job. And just as a heads up, because a couple of people have shouted it out, they do have another drop for their next I guess flavor of sparkling water coming this Wednesday, and is only to Binance US accounts. So anyone who's been kind of left out of some of the other ones that might have only been for Europe or might have been geo blocked, this is your opportunity. You get Rect points, and they basically translate directly into Rect coin that you'll get. Um, shouting out a couple people in here. Oh yay, Hyaron. Sure, that's probably not how you pronounce it, but he said I think he bought like on the last Jupiter flavor drop, whenever that was a couple months back. He spent like $1,600 on sparkling water, and the coin allocation he got from it is now worth like 12K. Uh, oh, excuse me. So I can't guarantee you're gonna have the same thing on Wednesday, but I would be shocked if whatever amount you buy doesn't at least get you like a commensurate value in token back. So if you're a believer of that ecosystem or that token and think it could go higher, that's probably a great way to kind of enter into it without just, flat out market buying the token. So wanted to shout out Oye there, and I think it was Mint Mazel. Yeah, Mint Mazel as well, because he had a field report on the token back when it was at a 16 million market cap and the NFTs were like 0.1 or 0.2. So people have been cooking on the Rect brands, Jake.
I know I've faded that the whole way, but I've never not liked them. I think what they do is really good stuff, and they obviously are like super sharp dudes, and have been building a following and doing content regularly, despite having 10 figs plus portfolios and making really big trades. So I've always respected those guys. Um, I'm glad people who have believed in the ecosystem are doing well from them. I kind of just missed that one, but I certainly don't hate it. I think it could continue to run up too if they really build a big up brand.
Yeah, and another little like supplementary point that I see some people in here talking about, but just want to make more aware of, is they also have another product or platform that is live, which is their Yeet YEET casino. Just think Rollbit essentially, just some different games, different look and kind of branding on it, but that is officially part of like their Rect ecosystem, and they've confirmed there will be an airdrop for it. So can't guarantee you're going to get an allocation just for owning, a Rect Guy NFT or even Rect coin, but they could easily give you a small allocation just for, being a holder of their first kind of property, or maybe like a bonus multiplier or something. And even if none of that, I think I think it's not a bad idea to just churn a little bit of volume there, just because they've shown, like you said, man, they have 10 million, or yeah, like they have huge portfolios between them. They don't need to really do this, and yet they still are. So I think if you want to bet on them rewarding their holders and their ecosystem participants, I think Yeet is really a great beta play because you can get in before the airdrop even goes live and probably get in at, at a much lower valuation with some higher upside there compared to just market buying a $500 million market cap coin right now.
No, I like that shout. Have you been farming it yourself?
I have not, honestly, only because I know I saw someone originally say there is some KYC element to it, but I went back and checked. I think it was Dog God Frog Log here at MVHQ. I think he said that only really even applies if you do like a certain amount of volume, or even like you're trying to withdraw like a certain amount of dollars at any point, which was really, really high. So I think if you, keep it fairly, low size, deposit a couple $100, $1,000, and just kind of try and churn through that on some minimum size bets, I think you should be fine. But, as always, DYOR and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'd be interested. Is anyone in here? Anyone else in the community been farming that? I'd be curious on like a non-degen, like lose this little bankroll as possible farm for that. I haven't tried the site itself. That'd be a good field report right there, if anyone is.
Yeah, if you just search EAT, again, YEET, kind of in the search bar here in Discord, you'll see quite a few people talking about it. Enormous James, Dog God Frog Log again. And Dog has even shouted out like they have semi regularly, like they have free roll events like poker free roll, or even like a free kind of slot, a couple like entrants on some low value slots that you can do. So I mean, it seems like, again, you have to be kind of vigilant, but there are even some ways to get in without depositing anything. So I'm definitely going to try and keep that more on my radar and put them in some Twitter groups to see if I can't get that started up today and do a little farming there.
Yeah, really good shout. I've seen like Keyboard Monkey. I think that's like his big thing right now is the EAT stuff, which obviously he's very aligned with the Wrecked guys. But yeah, it kind of turned me off a little bit that it was him, just because he's like shilled Rollbit a bunch and stuff before. But I don't know. I think it could be a decent airdrop if you can grind it and not lose too much money. Yeah, remains to be seen. But I didn't realize how aligned that was with the Wrecked ecosystem too. But yeah, that's I don't really have anything else on my topic list here. So do you have anything else, or anyone else wanted to bring up something they want to chat through?
I have one other thing I was going to mention, but want to leave the floor open in case anyone else wants to come up and show their favorite project, or talk about something blatant that we're missing. All right, I'll go ahead then. Just the other thing I wanted to point out, and again, big pudgy guy, big pengu guy here, so take it all with a grain of salt. I'm definitely biased, but we've seen huge run-ups in both their NFTs, and the NFTs are almost where they were at free pengu airdrop, which is kind of crazy. So I expect those to run even a little bit more once we get closer to abstract TGE, and once that kind of gets confirmed, because I believe Luca already said it's pretty much confirmed for Q3 of this year. So that's that's in the next few months here. Really, we don't have a ton more time. And he said, he's also said, throughout some interviews and stuff I've kept up with, that even if you don't have really activity on the chain, I believe being a penguin holder should get you some amount of abstract token. So just a little nuance there to that. And the other thing, and like these rumors, people have been speculating on these rumors for a few weeks now, but Luca's talked a lot about two kind of big upcoming I guess, events, more or less. One of them being an acquisition that they made. So, they acquired some other company out there, and another one being a big partnership. Um, People have speculated the acquisition could be OpenSea. I don't think it's that. If I had to guess, I don't think that makes sense for them. I don't really see the upside or why, what they have to gain from that. Quite honestly, but this morning the Pudgy Penguins account and Luca posted some pictures of a Pudgy Penguin in like a McDonald's outfit with like the branded McDonald's visor and wearing like a McDonald's shirt. Um, it's in the abstract thread, but I will copy and put it in voice hangout chat right now. So this was might just be a little hint to something. There's another post from later this morning where the McDonald's official account says, "If I had a sesame seed in my teeth, would you tell me?" And Pudgy Penguins replied, "Only if I can take it out." And McDonald's replied to that, "True friendship." Um, and then Jarvis, super sharp guy, always doing a lot of digging on chain and stuff like that. I basically said to Jarvis, I was like, I can't really tell if they're memeing or not. And Jarvis mentioned, I don't think he'd be memeing with the official logo all over this stuff. So, that if, consider Pudgy Penguins have a partnership with McDonald's and they get toys and all the Happy Meals, like, just, it's like, I can't speak highly enough of how good of a job Luca is doing with advertising and growing the mind share of that project. And, you know, revenue and sales of the toys and plushies don't necessarily lead back to higher NFT or token prices, right? They're not directly correlated, but I think we've seen enough that is what happens, right? The more positive sentiment they get, the more mainstream they become. I think the Web3 degens like us, we see that and we see that, and we realize the knock-on effects it'll have. And so just something to keep an eye on, right? Like if you've been considering, getting in Pudgy Penguins or the token or little Pudgies or anything, maybe follow the McDonald's account, maybe turn on notifications for Pudgy Team, and because if they announce a McDonald's partnership, I imagine we'll see a spike in the NFTs and the coin. But again, NFA, and that's just my weekly 2 cents on the fat flightless birds.
Oh, that's a mouth right there. I did not see the Luca tweet from earlier today. I mean, a McDonald's partnership would be huge. That's like another level, I would say. I mean, obviously, I don't think it's like. I mean, if a lot of crypto brands could do this, and I like wouldn't believe it, but Pudgy's, I think you certainly can believe it with how many other bigger partnerships they've already had in the past. Obviously, being in Walmart, and I think it's definitely could happen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that'd be pretty monstrous.
yeah. I try to rein in my bullishness again because I know I have some bag bias, but I don't think you can really point to a team that has been as successful as Luca and the Pudgy team, especially when you consider where they started, taking over from a founder who, didn't have the best reputation, let's say.
Yeah. Speaking of reputation, Ethos, I think is still a very good farm if no one's doing it. While we're kind of wrapping things up and shouting out stuff, I would if you're not in Ethos, I definitely hop in. I mean, anyone in sure like there's plenty of invites to go around in HQ. If you want to ask people, you can ask me if you want. I got plenty of invites. Not to chill my own bags. But yeah, I would say just like there's daily quests that you can do. It's super easy. It takes like 2 minutes. And you just click a couple buttons to do the daily quest for Ethos. I would recommend doing that. That builds up experience, which I think everyone pretty much anticipates it goes towards a future airdrop by them. And then also getting your rep up, I'm sure, is going to help with the airdrop too. So it's can't speak highly enough of Ethos. I think they continue to make headlines in different ways. The stuff on there can be controversial, but I think that's kind of the point of it is to be able to call out bad actors and see what shakes. what shakes out from it and see like what the consensus is. I think there's still definitely a lot of like bots and AI and like Chat GPT scripts going and reviews going out there. But I think they're doing a good job to work to combat that right now. And yeah, I just like the direction that they're going in and the fact that it's getting implemented into a lot of different products. And I can see that only continuing to grow because I think there's a lot of there can be a lot of benefits in the future to having a good ethos score. Getting on like high quality whitelists or getting airdrops for your ethos score or what have you. And I mean, even like if you want to get a job in Web3, I think they could certainly help you as well. So I recommend grinding ethos. There's a ton of people in HQ who will review you and vouch for you and stuff because it's beneficial to both parties to review and vouch each other and do the whole 3-3 thing. So yeah, gotta shout out Ethos. Haven't shouted them out in a few episodes. So, but yeah, any other products you guys are excited about? Anything else you guys want to shout out here before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I'll tell you there. I mean, Ethos definitely a good product. Farming it, daily, just kind of doing the daily reviews, just like you are. Another one that I see, but I've got like or three or four main farms that I kind of do just daily activities for Ethos. Another one is Infinex, INFINEX. Excuse me, which is just like it's like an all-in-one wallet where you can send it Sol or ETH or whatever, and from there you can like they call it like swidging, where it like swap and bridges at the same like all in one transaction and just stays in your Infinex wallet. So you can go from Sol to ETH to BNB to all these things just with like one click. So that is really nice. And then I think like some of their longer term stuff is building out kind of some of like the same AI functionality that you've seen from like the Wayfinder and the prompt stuff, where I think eventually you're able to kind of tell it to like DCA into certain coins or basically like making a Web3 wallet for people who are not Web3 native, basically, right? You don't have to go to different dApps to swap. You don't have to do this or that. You can basically do it all from within their one website and their own platform, which again, super nice. You don't have to download a wallet. So, which I know, some people might not love because it means they're kind of custodying the funds for you. So always, a little bit of risk there. But I think as far as, like the quote unquote Web 2 native users who we want to come into Web 3, this is kind of one of the better products that I've seen that does make it all really simple, simplistic, seamless. And you don't really need to know about blockchains or how to bridge or any of that stuff. It just works, which is really nice. So Ethos, Infinex, and Hyperliquid stuff. I think Hyperliquid is fantastic. I mean, the platform itself, just for trading and perps and spot and all that stuff, is great. And their Hyper EVM stuff they've been building that out slowly but surely. There's some other products there like Unit for kind of bridging some funds over, and Liminal, which is like a delta neutral farm that just kind of farms the funding rates for you depending on how much you deposit. So lot of different ways you can interact with Hyperliquid depending on how risky you want to be. But I think those three or four are going to be some decent to good size airdrops whenever they kind of come out in the future here.
Love the shouts. Yeah, I think that whole ecosystem could be pretty up and coming for quite some time now. With obviously how much money is floating around over on Hyperliquid, and how like high quality of a cult following that they've been able to amass. Given the big old airdrop that they've gave people, uh, along with a lot of positive social sentiment.
Yep.
Um,
And And anecdotally, but I know we had a couple of people even in here last week that were saying, that they've been checked out at various points throughout this cycle, having been onboarded kind of in 2020 with a lot of us, and they were just kind of asking, what is the best kind of play, right? Is it still NFTs? Is it still shitcoining? Is it still this or that? And I think a lot of people kind of very sharply put, really, it's airdrop farming, right? It's low capital for the most part. It's low risk. Sure, it might not always pay off, but if you want to put in just an hour or two every day with not a whole lot of money on the line that you could lose, I do still think airdrop farming is a great way to spend your time. And yeah, just like you shouted out there are still some really high quality airdrops that are out there between Hyperliquid, Abstract, Ethos, Yeet. Yeah, so just gotta kind of put your nose to the grindstone.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I love all the shouts. There's a shout in Cast shout in Voice Hangout about ICO Beast joining Proof of Play. I guess we can touch on that. Yeah, Proof of Play, who's behind Pirate Nation, and also build a lot of infrastructure for Web3 gaming. ICO Beast, yeah, I think that was a really good hire by them because I think what they're one of their biggest weaknesses, if you could call it that, I guess, would be that they're like the marketing side and like getting the word out about their products. Um, and so like hiring someone who's already has like a big following as a KOL and in that space and stuff is a good way to do that. And then also he teased a game, which this is my first time learning about this. He teased the Pirate Nation game on Abstract that's going to be launching this week. So be looking out for that too. I don't know if that's Cass. I don't know if you're around. Do you know if there's any like more? Is it like Pirate Nation itself or like a new game? I just he doesn't have a mic, but he's typing in voice hangout chat. We'll see if he says partial version of a current mini game in Pirate Nation, Infinite Tides. Okay, cool. Um, so yeah, that's something. I think in general, I'm hoping they do well. Web3 gaming has still been pretty behind the ball, and comparatively to like meme coins and a lot of big alts. It's kind of been. I mean, I haven't really been paying much attention. I'm sure other people. I know there's other people in here. They're in gaming like JJ, and Cass and some others. Mag, who could probably attest to this more. But from what I've seen, it like from prices and stuff, and general lack of hype, that seem it's been pretty far behind in terms of like getting the pump than like all these majors, as well as I mean even like NFTs now and stuff. But maybe there's been a bit of a catch up in the recent week or so. Um, but I would love to see another run of gaming stuff now that stuff is more built out. I still believe in the proof of play team. I don't know if Pirate Nation itself is going to be the big winner, but I really like the team and I really like the infra that they're building. So, um, hopefully they do an airdrop sometime soon. That'd be nice. Yeah, Pirate Nation will not be the big winner. Yeah, I agree with that. Um, yeah, any other gaming stuff? Oh, also Cambria. But I, I don't think there's been any really new news. I think the only thing is that you could stake like cores or something for cosmetics, which might be interesting. But I still really like Cambria. That might be a nice sleeper play. While they do, if you guys aren't familiar, they do like game like testing seasons almost, where they like have the game live for like a week or two, and everyone plays it at the same time. And it was like the first Web3 game where I actually had fun playing it, and like was actually like kind of addicted to it, because of its game loop, which I think is pretty bullish. Uh, to say about themselves, it's basically like it's basically like an old school RuneScape copy. Um, and right now it's been, I think, a couple months now since their most recent play test. I'm pretty sure, I'm not like super caught up to what they're doing, but I'm pretty sure what they do is they do the play test and then they make a bunch of new updates and add a bunch of features to it, and then they do another play test, and eventually they'll have like a full-time live game. During these play tests they give like big incentives in terms of like prize pool and cash and uh you know points towards their TGE token and all that stuff. So that's why a bunch of people are playing it and grind it, but it's actually like decently fun. So they have several NFTs out there that you can look into and like invest in the ecosystem now if you wanted to. I just think maybe that's a good shout, and that it's been a couple months since their most recent update. NFTs are starting to get a little bit of a boost, and it's actually like an ecosystem that I'm decently bullish on. So that might be a good under the radar play. More of a longer term one, but I'm gonna shout that out. Yeah, I think that's it. That's all I had in terms of stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, man, same here. I mean, I knew, you kind of started off by saying it was a little bit more of a muted week, but I mean, I still think we had, a ton of great stuff, ton of NFTs that are running, even a couple coins that are doing, making all-time highs, a lot of good farm opportunities out there. And that's kind of what I feel like this quote unquote, a little more stagnant downtime is perfect for. Just shore up your farms, make sure you're hitting them all daily, getting in whether it's volume or login or just check-ins, whatever. And yeah, I am a testament to it. You will reap the rewards at some point. Like I wouldn't still be here if it weren't for airdrops kind of saving my skin every couple of months.
Yes, sir. Um, yeah, well, if that's everything, appreciate you guys hopping in. Jacob says Rafik reveal is supposed to be this Friday/Saturday as well. What is it? What's the most recent one? I'm not even sure what his most recent one is. I'm not
It's called
tuned in there.
Data Lands Biome,
Oh,
Biome Lumina.
that's the biolumina. Okay, cool. I think that one's been like a long time, hasn't it? Since it revealed, or since they minted.
It's yeah, I mean it's been a little while and it has like a couple of stages of like reveal, quote unquote, where like the metadata updates. So like
I
they
see.
had one maybe a few weeks ago, but it's still supposed to update a few more times. So who knows when it'll finally be done.
Okay, it's the final one. Got it. Cool. Yeah, we keep saying nothing else, and then there's something else. Any other last things that we're forgetting? Well, cool. Yeah, appreciate you guys joining us today. Obviously, can still stay in here and chop it up if you want, but we can wrap the show up here. Yeah, appreciate you guys. Hopefully, market gets a nice little bounce here, and we keep going up and having some fun. Thanks, y'all. Thanks, Silva.
Yes, sir. Yeah, man. Appreciate you having me up here, and I'll see everybody in chat.
Yeah. Later, y'all.
Peace.